I remember when I first started to pursue a firefighter career, I remember when I used to think of the career, I used to be really excited, oh, we're gonna fight fire and get to train, you got the brotherhood and sisterhood. I was really excited about what the job had to offer. There wasn't much talk about the negatives, outside of the dangers of the job. There wasn't really much talk about what's the negative sides of a firefighter career. So in this video, I wanted to take the time to express my personal top 5 negatives of the job. So before I get into my top 5, I need to put a disclaimer out there. The pros heavily outweigh the cons when it comes to a firefighter career, okay? So just know that. But there are some negatives that can truly impact your life that I feel like you need to know about. So when I introduce my top 5 negative topics, I'm gonna follow it with some positives or some ways that we combat and cope or deal with these negatives within the fire service. Just to kind of give you some context of kind of how we handle that throughout our career. So the first negative for me is word travels fast. So you got to think of the fire service like one giant high school. So if something happens, we're telling our buddy next to us, they're telling their buddy across the way, across the city at a new department. Word travels real fast, and especially within your own organization. Perfect example is when I was on probation, I worked a double. So I worked my 24-hour shift, and then I picked up and worked another 24-hour shift because the organization needed help. So I stepped in. As a new firefighter, we tend to do most of the work in regards of, checking off boxes, cleaning station, just kind of taking care of station duties and doing all those things. So when I went in for my shift on B shift, I did all those things in the morning, took care of all that stuff. Before I went to bed, I made sure everything was restocked, made sure that, everything was clean, kitchen was clean, coffee was ready, doing all those little things on top of obviously running calls and stuff. So then the next day, C shift came in and I was working another. So I woke up in the morning before the C shift came in and did all those other things. Make sure that, I checked off the boxes, make sure we were ready to go for the day. Make sure coffee was ready, make sure I cleaned the station up a little bit more for things that I may have missed, make sure everything was ready to go. So then I went into the weight room and I started working out. So later C shift came in and I was still in there getting my work on and they were, putting their stuff on the unit and getting ready to go for the day. So we went through our shift, everything was good, ran a bunch of calls, ate and trained together, did what we had to do, typical day. So it was about 2 shifts after that, I had one of my mentors call me and say, hey, what are you doing working out when the crew's, cleaning and restocking the units? And I was kind of thrown back because I had a feeling that when I was training that someone was going to say something because I'm here training as a new probationary firefighter and, they're just coming in. So it wasn't that much of a good look, but they didn't understand that I already did all the things that a new firefighter would do. So yeah, he was like, why are you in there working out when they're doing A, B, C, and D? And I had to express to him like, hey, I already took care of those things. I was there the shift before and I took care of the things those mornings. So I had the opportunity to work out, so I got a workout in. So the point I'm trying to make is something as simple as any action that you do, positive or negative, word travels real fast. So me being a new member, that really wasn't a good look because without knowing the context behind my actions and what actually happened, it almost looks like, I'm a lazy member and I wasn't doing what probationary firefighters have done before me, but that wasn't the case. And I feel like that's truly one of the biggest negatives within the fire service because things can be taken out of context very easily, which can tarnish a member's reputation. So in the context of, word travels fast, the fire service can be like one big high school, ways we kind of combat, that negative of the fire service is you just understand that you're working with multiple personalities, on a day-to-day basis. So just knowing that you have to do your best to get along. At the end of the day, you can't please everybody. You just got to do your best to make sure that your actions and how you represent yourself is in a positive light as much as possible because you just never know, who's watching or, who's judging you. And it can really hinder and tarnish your reputation, especially if it's a negative. And the biggest thing is you coming into the fire service as a new member and as you go on through your career, don't be that person that quickly judge somebody's actions or, goes and gossips to the next firefighter without truly understanding what's going on. If you have an issue with somebody, go to that person and have a conversation with them and see where they're at, see where they stand on things, because you can truly hinder and tarnish somebody's reputation by just going and gossiping to your brother or sister. And the second being the mental and physical beatdown that you take throughout your career. And this is really no secret when it comes to the fire service. So there's a lot I can talk about in regards of, what we take on mentally, physically, but some of the things that I really want to cover is just like the call types, okay? So for the mental side of it, we see a lot of things that cannot be unseen. We run a lot of calls where citizens lose their loved ones. Just that atmosphere and that vibe can really play a toll on the mental capacity of a firefighter. And it happens often throughout your career. Also, there's horrific and tragic scenes that we see all the time. Anything under the sun that you can think of I bet you that a firefighter has seen that throughout their career running calls. Those mental images stick with us for a lifetime, and it compounds on itself throughout our career. And another one is the potential loss of a fellow brother or sister on the job. This is a reality being a firefighter in the fire service. And not only the potential loss of a fellow brother or sister within the organization, but also the loss of their loved ones. We're one big family, so if something happens to our immediate family back home, we have the love and support of the members around us. And that emotional and mental roller coaster is something that we're all a part of and we're all riding throughout our careers. In regards of the mental side of it, long story short, there's a lot of things that compounds on itself going throughout our career, okay, that we really have to deal with as firefighters. Just put it in terms like this. When we get called on emergencies, we're not going there because, someone's throwing us a birthday. We're going there to mitigate an emergency. This can potentially be the worst moment in their life. So it's almost a negative. So we're just responding to calls over and over and over, trying to mitigate these negatives to try to make them a more positive outcome. So just understand that compounds on itself, and that just kind of breaks us down and beats us down mentally. So we got to make sure we're doing everything in our power to kind of mitigate that and cope with that so we can be healthy and successful throughout our careers and at our jobs. Now for the physical side, it's no secret that our job requires us to meet a high standard physically. Throughout your firefighter career, you're going to have excessive training. I say excessive because it's often. We have to make sure that we continue to stay up on the latest and greatest, tools and techniques, our fire suppression, our EMS stuff. There's a lot we got to learn because times are changing out there in the world. So we got to make sure we stay ahead so we're not falling behind so we can do our jobs great. And also simple tasks of getting on and off the truck. You'd be surprised at how many firefighters actually injure themselves getting on and off the unit, whether it's proper or improper, hurting their knees, hurting their back, twisting their ankles. Those are all things that wear on us. Think about it, in a given shift, depending on where you're at in your particular city, you can be getting on and off the truck 40 plus times throughout your shift. And if you do that through a 25 plus year career, that's a lot. So you got to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to take care of yourself physically. And also there's fires, okay? There's no secret there, okay? Wearing all your PPE, 75 pounds of whatever other equipment you have on you, climbing up ladders with equipment, cutting holes, suppressing fires, being in superheated atmosphere and, being around all these carcinogens and all of these dangers, just kind of wearing on us. You can have multiple fires throughout a particular shift as well. So say you go and you're at a fire for 2 hours, right? You come back home, decon, clean all your stuff, put some new gear on, take a shower, do all those things you got to do to take care of yourself. Right when you go back into service, you can be kicked to another fire. So that can truly happen throughout your career, okay? And that's just a constant beat down that we take as firefighters. And if it's for 25 plus years, physically, you're just going to be beat. So you truly have to understand that coming into the fire service. And remember, I talked about the emotional side of it, okay? So if we're drained and beat down emotionally, just know that that's going to play a toll on us physically. So now when it comes to how we deal or cope with, the mental and physical beat down we take throughout our career, one of the big things that we focus on is, proper nutrition and making sure that we're on and sticking to a strict fitness regimen so we can make sure that we are, not just meeting, but exceeding the physical demand of the job. Another huge way we cope with this is utilizing our outlets, okay? We all have interests and hobbies outside of the fire service. Fishing, fitness, training, playing sports like basketball, soccer, whatever the case is, and utilizing our family as well, having conversations with them and, not keeping everything in. If we have a problem with something, we can, not only talk to our immediate family back home, but also talk to our fellow brothers and sisters within the organization, okay? Those are all important components when it comes to, dealing or coping with the beatdown that we take throughout our career. As for the third topic, when it comes to the mental and physical beatdown we take throughout our career, you need to understand that sleep deprivation is a real thing. We as firefighters are truly sleep deprived, okay? Not just at home, outside of our work life, but on the job, okay? Perfect example, we ran a 24-48, okay? So we worked 24 hours on and we had 48 hours off. There was a lot of shifts throughout my time on the job where we literally had stand-up 24s, okay? So we were literally running call back to back. We had training, then we had more calls back to back. And then when it was time to go down and go to sleep, it wasn't like a normal 9-to-5 job where you work your hours and then you go home and then you have a full night's sleep. No, that's not how it works. So when it was nighttime, we would get ready to go to bed, shower, brush our teeth, do what we have to do, get in bed, boom, tones go off, we have to go. And it literally carried on throughout the night. Just understand that you coming into the fire service, that's a reality for us, okay? That's not something that's abnormal, okay? It's normal that we're up multiple times throughout the night and we're not getting quality sleep, being on the job, okay? So just understand that throughout your career, it's 25 plus years now, okay? It's a third of your life that you're gonna be waking up, running calls. That's just a reality, okay? So when it comes to sleep deprivation, that really wears on us. So the emotional and mental side of it, we're just constantly beat from that. And not only just on the job, being sleep deprived on the job, at home. Say you have a family at home. Perfect example. When I was a new firefighter, I had a wife and a son at home that when I got off shift, after we got beat the whole entire day and the entire night, I had to go home and, support my wife and help my wife and take care of my son and do all those things that a father and a husband does. And not only that, throughout the night, she needed a break because she was a nurse as well. So she had her time that she had to get ready for her shifts. So I was getting up with my son. So it just didn't change and it didn't stop. So yeah, I wasn't running calls at home, but my sleep wasn't the same either. So you just got to understand that, life happens, and understand that on the job, sleep deprivation is a reality, okay? And it can really tarnish and hinder, the mental and physical beatdown that we take as firefighters throughout our career. So ways we kind of cope and deal with sleep deprivation is, first of all, we just understand we know what we signed up for, okay? So with that being said, we do our best to sleep when we can, okay? And that's coming, in between calls. If we can go down for a second to get a quick nap in, that's what we got to take advantage of. And when it comes to being at home, doing your best to get on the sleeping pattern and get as much sleep as you possibly can at home, because that's really where you recover, okay? So on the job, you're working your butt off, fighting the good fight. And then when you go home, that's kind of when you recover and regroup. So when you come back to work, you're ready to go. As for the fourth topic, it's the dangers of the job, okay? And this is probably one of the most well-known negatives within the fire service. So I'm just going to give you some quick examples of, when it comes to the dangers of the job. Perfect example is responding to calls, okay? So we're responding code 3 to a lot of our emergencies. So that's lights and sirens, getting there as quickly and as safely as we possibly can. So with that being said, we're dealing with the citizens driving out there in our community. So some of them aren't the best drivers, which pose a hazard not only to them, but to us as firefighters. So that aspect of it is a huge negative of the job, because that's 100% of what we do as firefighters. Also, we're dealing with the patients that we run on in those emergencies. Some of them are dangerous or considered to be dangerous, whether they have weapons, they have, drug sharps on them, or they're in some sort of diabetic or mental emergency to where they don't really know what's going on and they're being combative. All these different things that we deal with that pose a hazard and danger to us. Also, it's no secret when responding to structural fires. Okay? You got superheated gases, you got a lot of smoke, carcinogens, hazards, structural collapses, explosions, all those things. When we are responding to those calls and we're trying to, suppress fires, those are hazards that we have to deal with as firefighters. When it comes to the dangers of the job, long story short, you really just got to look at it like this. When there's danger, you tend to see people run away or retreat from danger. We as firefighters, first responders, we are running toward the danger, okay? So just understand that anything under the sun, you can expect that firefighters and first responders are going to be there trying to mitigate those, hazardous or dangerous situations. So when it comes to how we deal or cope with, the dangers or hazards of the job, there's a lot of things that I can talk about, but there's a few that I want to cover. So the first one is being, filling out exposure reports. So anytimes, we run calls on fires or we're exposed to potential, substances or whatever the case is, we go back and we utilize, our charts and we put ourselves in for exposure to, those carcinogens or whatever the case is. So we kind of have a log of those exposures throughout our 25 plus year career. So just in case something happens to us, whether we, develop cancer or whatever the case is, we have, a log and history of kind of what's happened throughout our career so we can be protected. Another huge one is, following our policies, following our SOPs, our standard operating procedures, and following our general orders, making sure that we're staying up on those and making sure that we are abiding by, our doctrine or our laws within the fire service. Another huge one is being a lifelong learner, okay? Continually educating ourselves and learning as much as possible. Remember, I talked about the excessive training. That goes into a part of it. It's not just physical training, but also, studying, staying up to date, on, new tactics and new strategies that we can utilize in, fire suppression or whatever the case is. Making sure that we're sharp on our EMS skills and, staying up on the latest equipment, whether that be, a new monitor or, new equipment to mitigate specific, emergencies. Whatever the case is, just making sure that we're doing everything in our powers to continually to stay educated. And probably one of the biggest ways we try to, deal with, the dangers of the job, as you can see, as firefighters, we run in crews, okay? So for me, for instance, we ran of a crew of a minimum of 4 firefighters, okay? You'll have a captain, an engineer, 2 firefighters. And everything we did, we were either together as a unit or it was 2 in, 2 out. That was literally the standard case. So that's one way that we kind of make sure that we mitigate those dangers while always having a fellow brother and sister next to us, okay, to help us get through and deal with and mitigate, those emergencies and dangers that we are a part of. As for the fifth and final topic, and I feel like it's truly the most important topic, is the family side of it, okay? we as firefighters know what we're signing up for, okay? We can sit there and educate our family as much as we possibly can, but they won't truly know, what it's like, within the fire service and being a firefighter if they're not in it themselves, okay? So just know that every time we leave for our shifts, our loved ones are going to be worried, okay? They're going to be thinking, what if this, what if that? Oh, I haven't heard from, my significant other since 2 hours or whatever the case is. I know for my wife in particular, every time I left, she worried, okay? And if I didn't, text her or call her at a specific time that I normally do, that's when she would really worry because she would feel like something happened to me. But that's just a reality of the job, okay? There could be days where we're constantly running calls or we have some sort of training to where I'm not able to, reach out and update my wife as often as I normally do, okay? And that does cause concern for her, but that's just a reality of being a firefighter within the fire service. There's a lot that I can cover in regards of the topics of being a firefighter and the effects on the family. But the worrying aspect of it is the biggest and most concerning. The worrying that our family is going to be dealing with is to be expected, okay? You as a new firefighter coming into the fire service and going throughout your career, you truly need to understand that any call that you respond to could be your last call, okay? So you have to do everything in your power, making sure that you're abiding by all those laws and those policies that I talked about in regards to the fire service, okay? Making sure that you're doing everything in your power to be safe. I'm not here to be super negative. I'm just here to truly educate you on what's real in the fire service, okay? And that's real. And when it comes to the family, that's something that they have to deal with. And that's truly something that you need to understand is happening within the background, okay? So be there to support them and update them and teach them and educate them on what's expected of them throughout your career. So that ties in perfectly to how we deal or cope with this particular topic, being a firefighter in the fire service. First and foremost, just like I just said, making sure that we are updating our family as often as we possibly can and informing them on, what's expected of them throughout our career, what's expected of them throughout the academy and all those different things. Also, you have fire department support, okay? So depending on your particular fire department, you're going to have specific resources that are there to help and guide you and aid you throughout your career, okay? Perfect example is just you and your fellow brothers and sisters, sitting at the table eating a meal, utilize them to, bounce things off of and de-stress and get that load off yourself. And the biggest one being taking advantage of every opportunity you have to spend with your family and loved ones, okay? Going out and doing family things, game nights, going to a movie, playing sports, laughing together. And the biggest part is telling them that you love them every single day as often as you can, giving them a hug and kiss, especially if you have a wife, husband, significant other, and kids. Do that. Really take that to heart, okay? Because life is truly taken for granted. All of us do it as humans. You just do your best to understand that you being a firefighter within the fire service, anything can change at the flip of a coin, okay? So you have to do your best to make sure that you take advantage of all those opportunities because things can change in an instant. So depending on who you're talking to in the fire service, it could be a lot of different, negatives of the job. The list can be totally different. Just understand that this is my personal top 5 that I feel is the strongest. And I just wanted to educate you on why I felt like they were important. And it's just a reality of something that you can experience throughout your career. I'm not here to be super negative. You know that I'm typically a positive person, energetic, but I just felt like this video was truly important and I really wanted to get this information out to you. So those of you that are seeking, employment or, have the ambition of becoming a firefighter, you can know the true facts and some of the negative sides of being a firefighter in the fire service. All in all, continue to work hard, stay consistent, and I'll catch you on the next one. Good luck, future firefighter.